Got some simplifying here today. These problems are always really enjoyable because it's just an aspect of understanding the rules. Knowing what are you doing when you're dividing by the same base? What are you doing when you're multiplying by the same base? What are you doing when it's power to a power? Just really understanding those foundational, really important concepts with variables and exponents. It's really all it comes down to. So in this first step here, I'm not even going to read through the problem. We have a lot going on the inside of the parentheses. But I do want to just jump to the fact that we have all of this going on inside of these parentheses here. Look what this exponent is. It's a -2. We have two options. Probably more than two, but here's my two routes that you could possibly take. First is dealing with, just now that I'm talking about it, I could see 3 or 4 routes that we can go through. But here's what I think a lot of people might do. Here's two potential routes I think people would probably go down. Like if I'm grading exams on this kind of problem, here's the two paths that I see. I see dealing with the inside, so meaning we're going to simplify 2 to the -2 over 2 to the -1, x to the -3, we'll do all that, and then get whatever that comes out to be, and then deal with the power. So they would take something like if you had 2 to the -2, x to the -5. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just making this up. Raised to the -2, or maybe you get something on the bottom. I don't know. You would take everything to that power and then deal with the negative exponent that way, and then move things around or multiply or whatever. So do power to a power. That's one route. Another route would be just understanding that, well, if I have this negative exponent here, I have a whole fraction being raised to a negative exponent, I can just flip the fraction around and change that exponent to a positive. I like that route because that keeps this positive then. So then when I simplify the inside, then I just have to worry about multiplying by a positive, which may or may not make it easier, but I just prefer this route. So I'm going to take this fraction, I'm going to completely flip it. So 2 to the -1. And when I do this, these do not turn to positive because I'm flipping it for the aspect of that, not for any real reason. So we have 2 to the -1. X to the -5, y to the -2, over 2 to the -2, x to the -3, y to the -7, raised to the power of +2 now. Now I would do what I was talking about. I would simplify the inside and then deal with the power. You can also take the power to everything right now. So 2 to the -1 times 2, x to the -5 times 2, y to the -2 times 2, and then do the same thing down here. Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's fine. You're kind of making the numbers a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So I'm going to simplify, and then we'll go from there. So here's how we simplify this. We have 2 to the -1 over 2 to the -2. When we are dividing by the same base, the rule here is to subtract the exponents. So division of same base. So if I have x to the, let's just call it x to the a over x to the b. Division of the same base. You can do a minus b or big exponent minus small exponent. It doesn't matter how you do it, but you're going to subtract. The operation for dividing by the same base is subtraction. I prefer to do big exponent minus little exponent, and then put the exponent where the big exponent was located originally. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the big exponent. So if I'm looking at either -1 or -2, the bigger number is -1. So that's going to be -1 minus the small exponent of -2. So -1 minus a -2 is -1 plus 2, which is +1. So I'm going to have 2 to the first. Now, where is that 2 to the first going to be located? Where should I put that? Since I did big minus small, I'm going to put 2 to the first wherever the bigger exponent was. The big exponent was the 2 to the -1. The -1 was bigger than -2. So that's where I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this on top of my fraction. So 2 to the first is going to go on top of my fraction. Now let's do the x's. So we have x to the -5 over x to the -3. Big minus small. Where is the big exponent? What is the big exponent? The big exponent is -3. That is bigger than -5. So I'm going to do -3 minus the -5. That is +2. -3 plus 5 is +2. So that means I'm going to get x to the second. Where is that x to the second going to go? Where was the bigger exponent? It was in the denominator. -3 was bigger than -5. X to the -3 was in the denominator. So that's where x to the second is going to go. It's going to go in the denominator. Now let's deal with y. So we have y to the negative 2 over y to the negative 7. Big minus small. Bigger exponent's negative 2. So negative 2 minus a negative 7. That is going to be, I think I'm getting a little close to my camera here. That is negative 2 plus 7, which is positive 5. So y to the 5th is going to either go in the numerator or the denominator. So where's it going to go? Bigger exponent was in the numerator. So y to the 5th is going to go on the top. Let me clean this up. A little bit too big. All right. And that was all being raised to the second power. Right there. Second power. Now I have a much simpler expression to simplify with that exponent of 2. And I want to just go back one last time regarding those exponents. I like to do big minus small. So again, I did big exponent minus a small exponent. And then wherever that big exponent was located, we just put it in that spot. So I found x to the negative 5 over x to the negative 3. Big minus small, got positive 2. Where was the big exponent? In the denominator. That's how I like to do it. You could do top minus bottom. So in this case, if you did top minus bottom, it would be negative 5 minus negative 3, which would be negative 5 plus 3, which is negative 2. So you'd have a negative 2. So you'd have x to the negative 2, but then you just have to put it on the top of your fraction because you did top minus bottom. So you got to keep it on the top, which means then you'd have to move it down because if you have x to the negative 2 on top, bring it down to get x to the second. Trying not to mark up my screen too much. But it doesn't matter. However you want to do it. I have power to a power now, so I'm going to take 2 to the 1 times 2, y to the 5 times 2, and x to the 2 times 2. So 1 to the 2 to the 1 times 2, y to the 5 times 2, over x to the 2 times 2. So this is 2 to the squared, 1 times 2 is 2, y to the 10th, 5 times 2 is 10, and x to the 4th, 2 times 2 is 4. We have one more step to simplify. 2 to the second is 4, because 2 times 2. So we get 4 y to the 10th over x to the 4th. The key to this problem, like I feel okay about like this second half here for like once we get down to here. Like this is just multiplication. This is just simplifying from here to here. Nothing too crazy. But here, like here is the bulk of the problem. This whole process of dealing with all of those exponents, making sure we're putting things in the correct position. Like I said, if you're doing top minus bottom, then you're going to get everything on the top. So if you did top minus bottom, I'm not going to redo the whole problem, but I just want to show you that concept. Over here, I got x to the negative 2 because I did top minus bottom. So that means this would have to come down because we have a negative exponent. So it'd be 1 over x squared for the x. And then same thing with the y. We do the top minus bottom, negative 2 minus a negative 7. It ended up being the same as big minus small because the bigger number happened to be on top. So you'd still get y to the 5th, and that would be on the top. And we wouldn't have to move anything. And then same thing for the 2. But that x you got to be careful with if you're going to do top minus bottom. So yeah, really interesting problem. I really like these problems because if you know your rules, then no matter what happens, you should be okay. As long as you know those rules. That's really what it all comes down to. You should be fine knowing the rules.